No country can guarantee its security on its own without cooperation with neighbours and other countries of the region. This is true for Moldova and Ukraine, and for the countries of the European Union. That is why in 2005, at the request of the presidents of Moldova and Ukraine, the European Union was willing to send a large group of experts to the two countries. They were tasked to assist both countries with ensuring regional security and economic development by applying European border management standards. This is how the European Union Border Assistance Mission to Moldova and Ukraine was established. The mission was also tasked to contribute to international efforts to secure a peaceful settlement of the Transnistrian conflict.
The mission was the EU response to a joint request by the then Moldovan and Ukrainian presidents, Mr. Voronin and Mr. Yushchenko, in trying to find technical level assistance, but also more transparency on the border.
The mission's headquarters are in Odessa. The mission is led by Andrew Tesorier, British diplomat, security expert, experienced negotiator and manager.
So security and trade are key words in the work that we do.
The mission has 6 field offices along the border between Moldova and Ukraine and a liaison office in Chisinau. Border and customs experts from 16 European Union member states. The mission is a neutral advisory consultative body. It does not have executive powers. Economic prosperity is a vital aspect of security. In 2014, Moldova and Ukraine signed an association agreement and a related deep and comprehensive free trade area with the European Union. These agreements pave the way not only for political association, but also economic integration with the European Union, opening the European market for Moldovan and Ukrainian goods, but also giving a perspective on deepening relations with the EU in the future. In the framework of these agreements, Moldova and Ukraine undertook certain obligations, including aligning border and customs procedures with those of the EU. Assisting partners to fulfill these obligations is a key task for the mission.
Eubam is one player, one actor in many to work on this agenda.
During 2014, a group of Eubam experts under the leadership of Colin Gaisley carried out a wide-ranging study of customs procedures at Odessa and Ilechivsk ports. Cumbersome bureaucratic procedures and the slow processing of cargoes have made Ukraine's seaports unattractive for business. Working methods do not correspond with best European practice.
We felt it was a time really to take an opportunity to look at these practices, see whether or not there were gaps, analyse those gaps, look at the mapping, the processes that take place within the port, review those against procedures and reviews that have taken place by other stakeholders.
The experts who carried out the study were interested in the views of all sides: the customs, the port authorities, and most of all, the business groups who use the ports. A special questionnaire was sent to business representatives.
We asked them to be as honest as they could be. We asked delving questions about corruption, about their cooperation. So we had some very good answers back, and it helped us to come to realistic conclusions about what the actual problems were in the port.
Once their study was completed, Eubam's experts worked up a concrete action plan consisting of 29 recommendations for reforming the customs in line with European standards.
Таможня активно взаимодействует с миссией в направлении усовершенствования системы анализа рисков. Одним из эффективных направлений взаимодействия с полевым офисом ЕС в Одесса-Порт является внедрение дополнительных модулей в информационную систему портового сообщества.
In 2015, in line with a recommendation made by the mission, the government of Ukraine eliminated mandatory checks on board all ships entering Ukraine's ports. Now, they are inspected only after risk analysis procedures have been carried out. The single window concept is being introduced at the ports. The government of Moldova has cut the number of mandatory documents required for customs clearance from 11 to 3. All this demonstrates the work of the mission in achieving one of its main objectives: to cut the time spent moving goods across the border and to lower the risk of corruption. The mission's experts also continue analysing the legislation of the two countries, proposing amendments to the customs code, preparing guidelines, working more closely with the customs services and business community. An important step has been the introduction of the Authorised Economic Operators concept, which simplifies customs clearance procedures for reliable businesses.
This is a very important element of trade facilitation because it gives these economic operators an opportunity to be audited by the customs, to be checked out to make sure that they're actually performing and complying in a certain way, and therefore it gives them benefits when they import and export their goods.
The mission is assisting Moldova and Ukraine to fulfill the requirements of their visa liberalization action plans with the EU. An important part of the plan is the introduction of integrated border management, the system used by the European Union as the basis of its border security regime. It requires active cross-border cooperation. After successfully establishing joint border control at the Rossashani-Britsheni border crossing point, where customs and border officers of the two countries work together under one roof, the EU provided €4.5 million for the reconstruction of the border crossing point at Palanca, which is also going to become a jointly controlled border crossing point. Work is in hand to extend this approach along the length of the Moldova-Ukraine border.
Зараз продовжуються переговори експертів щодо здійснення спільного контролю практично по всім міжнародним автомобільним, міжнародним залізничним і міждержавним пунктам пропуску.
The partner services of both countries now regularly carry out joint patrols and border security operations. Contacts are being established with international law enforcement structures.
Ми швидко розвиваємося. Зараз у нас в міжнародних всіх пунктах пропуску встановлена вже база Інтерпол, в тому числі завдяки роботі і підтримці місії Європейського Союзу. І вже більше 200 випадків було спрацювань цих баз за останній місяць.
The Common Border Security Report allows partner services to assess risks more quickly, to plan joint actions, and to react to cases of illegal activity.
Система обмена предварительной информацией между таможенными службами Молдовы и Украины, внедренная при помощи Eubam, является эффективным инструментом содействия торговле, администрирования рисков и борьбы с трансграничной преступностью.
Partners have learned how to better control the movement of commercial cargoes and to reduce the number of customs rules violations. The system has proved to be so effective that it is now being rolled out on Ukraine's border with Belarus. In autumn 2015, the border agencies of Moldova and Ukraine signed an agreement on the automated exchange of border crossing data. This will strengthen security. The mission assists partners to fight cross-border organised crime.
Eubam has worked in the past 10 years and will continue to work on supporting the two countries to stop or to frustrate illegal activity, primarily contraband smuggling, and to encourage the legal.
Eubam experts and Moldovan customs officers are inspecting the cabin of a truck. They find contraband items, expensive car parts. This is part of the everyday work of the mission experts. Today, despite the joint efforts of Eubam and partners from the border and law enforcement agencies of Moldova and Ukraine, cross-border organized crime still presents a big threat. But here has been some success, especially in the fight against cigarette smuggling, one of the mission's key priorities.
Looking to the figures of the cigarette producers, such as British American Tobacco, the illicit share of cigarettes in Ukraine decreased to 1.2% of the total trade of cigarettes, compared to almost 9% in 2014. This is a big and dramatic decrease.
Developing the operational capacities of the border agencies and raising their level of professionalism has been a major focus for the mission.
Немаловажный вклад был сделан Eubam в развитие профессиональных качеств сотрудников пограничного ведомства Республики Молдова. При помощи Eubam было проведено множество различных учебных курсов, тренингов, а также консультаций на рабочем месте.
Contributing to the peaceful settlement of the Transnistrian conflict is one of the mission's most important tasks. Eubam experts who are present at the border, including the Transnistrian segment, monitor that human rights are observed during checking procedures and provide neutral information about the situation in this region.
We say boots on the ground. It means we have people on the ground, they are monitoring across the borders movement on the Transnistrian segment, but not only. We are on the entire borders. And this is important, especially when you need to provide the international community with an independent observation.
The mission does a lot of work on confidence-building measures between the two banks of the river Dniester.
That's our challenge at the moment, just to meet the crucial point, and through the use of our good offices, we strive for bringing the three parties together at the same table.
The mission makes technical recommendations to facilitate the free movement of travelers and goods at this segment of the border and to encourage the development of trade activities. Eubam assists Transnistrian companies to access preferential trade tariffs on the same basis as other Moldovan companies and to re-establish international transport corridors.
So Eubam played a very big role and continues to play a very big role in bringing technical advice on how to realize political agreements between the two sides to the Transnistrian conflict.
In 2012, after a 6-year suspension, trains began to move again across this old railway bridge. First, just passenger trains, and then, later, goods trains followed. As always, it's busy at the Kuchugan border crossing point. Despite increased security measures, an endless flow of people continue to cross the borderline. Day in and day out, the mission's officers are making an important professional contribution to building cooperation between these two neighboring countries, strengthening regional security, creating an atmosphere of trust, making it as easy as possible for legitimate travelers to cross the border.